We have the invocation by Councilman Cortez and the pledge of allegiance by Councilman Forrest.
All rise, please. Father, we come to you tonight, Lord, to conduct the business of the parish, Lord. Just ask you to be with these council members and make the right decisions, the wise decisions, Lord, that will benefit the parish. Be with everyone that attends, Lord. Thank you to all our military at home and abroad. Watch out for all of us.
Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag with veterans and active military. Please render the proper salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next will be roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Present.
Mr. Bailey. Mr. Joseph. Mr. Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Ridgel.
Here.
Mr. Mayu.
Here.
Mr. Wells.
Here.
Mr. Vial.
Here.
Mr. Levine. Mr. Cortez.
Here.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'd just like to remind you, if you have cell phones or any other electronic devices, if you would please mute them or turn them off, we would appreciate it very much. The first item is the adoption of our minutes for our regular meeting, October the 15th. We have a motion by Councilman Joseph.
Second.
Second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel. Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next, well, we didn't have a public hearing, so. Next thing will be the parish president report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We do have a few items to take care of today. We'll do this first, then I'll talk about some notes things. The first thing we have on the agenda is approval of change order number 5 for Wardline Road drainage improvements. There was adjustments to the drainage work to work around some sewer lines that were there, some conflicts with the sewer line. It's an increase of $1,490.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Mayhew,
Second.
second by Councilman Cortez. Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mix me up with him, please.
That was VL? I'm sorry, Councilman VL. My apology. And I don't know what you guys fussing over, but hey, my apology. Roll call.
Mr. Forrest. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried.
All right, the next is approval to seek bids for 4 6-yard dump trucks. Last year, we had it budgeted to actually buy trucks, and we put it off. We put it off to this year, but we need 4. We're asking to be able to go out for 4 6-yard dump trucks.
And they're in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, also move.
Second.
I get it right this time. We have a motion by Councilman VL, second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno. Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
All right, that motion is carried.
Next, the approval to seek bids for 2 16-yard dump trucks.
Same question, in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Also move.
We have a motion by Councilman VL, second by Councilman Forrest again. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno. Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
All right, motion is carried.
And we'll keep this routine going. Approval to purchase 2 3-yard dump trucks from state contract.
You better not ask that
Put it
question.
in the
this
budget?
It's in the budget. I was glad
You
she
said to
asked me
keep it
before I said
going, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what I said, keep it going.
We'll make the motion again.
Also move.
All right, motion by Councilman VL, second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayu.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
Mr. Forrest. Mr. Joseph. Mr. Bruno.
I would like to ask,
Motion is carried.
Chairman,
Question.
I'd like to ask, are we replacing, are we getting rid of some other ones? Or just-
We will, once we get, we'll surplus the ones that we don't need anymore.
They're all for the south end anyway, don't worry about it.
I know, I don't understand.
And like a good coach, one more time, one more rep.
All right, Councilman Joseph.
Approval, oh, I'm sorry.
Councilman Joseph had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If it's on state contract, you don't have to seek bids, do you?
It's not bids, it's approval to purchase.
No.
Number 4 is approval to purchase. The first 2 were to seek bids because they're not on state
They're not on
contract.
state. Okay.
That's correct.
Got it. No problem.
All right, Mr. President.
The 5th item is approval to purchase 1 spray truck off of state contract.
So moved.
Got a motion by Councilman Joseph,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
We're going over the road?
Sir?
It's gonna be an over-the-road truck?
Yes, sir.
We hauling freight?
It's,
said a freight truck.
Spray,
This is voting.
Freight truck.
Voting.
spray truck.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
All right, this
Yeah.
is voting, Mr. Bruno.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Our motion is carried.
All right, and the last item on the agenda is financial reports, which you all have in front of you and are emailed to you. As always, if you have specific questions, please call. We're always here to give you the info.
Did we vote on the spray truck?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, we did. That's the one when Mr. Bruno thought we were on discussion. So, that's the one. Okay,
All right.
let's go.
Like most every other month, I wanted to tell you, we've got our jobs report, jobs being advertised on Go Jobs or the Louisiana.
Why'd you look at me when you told me that?
I'm just looking at everybody. I start left and scan to the right to me. But if there's a self-reference there, I can't help
He's self-conscious.
You should be used to that.
Get him an icon.
So there are 1,412 jobs being advertised. The average wage is $39,008. So as always, if you know someone who's looking for a job, send them to the Career Center on Martins Drive in Hammond. And we are working, by the way, to have an office in Amite pretty soon, a satellite office. Update too on Tropical Storm Olga. As we all know, it came in considerably stronger than what was projected by the Weather Center. Probably twice as strong and twice as sustained winds as they thought, and close to twice as much rain, in some areas more than twice as much rain. I can tell you that the Tangipahoa Parish road and bridge crews were out working very, very early on Saturday morning and worked into the evening. We got all of the trees that were not entangled with power lines all done on Saturday, and we got all of the trees that Entergy was able to, de-energize the lines to make sure our guys were safe. We got all of those trees on Saturday, and then continued the process with trees with power lines on Sunday, and actually today too. I think as of about 4 o'clock, we still had 2 streets with trees across them that have power lines in them that have not been deemed safe to work yet. If y'all want to. Trano and East Mary are still tied up. Ms. Eunice gave me the numbers. As of 5 o'clock, there were just a little over 1,500 folks. Most of them 1,500 in Hammond and about 50 in Amite that are still out of power currently. Entergy has we've been in constant communication with them throughout the weekend, trying to coordinate the efforts, and I do believe that we should have a after-action review with ourselves and Entergy. In this case, that was pretty much who were the two responding agencies, so we can go over ways to make us better. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
I have one question for Ms. Eunice. They said about 1,500 customers out. Any anticipation on time frame when they will get it back?
The ETR as of now is 10 p.m. tonight. Of course, those damage assessments sometimes can push those times out, or they can be shortened. Definitely don't want to give customer an ERT and then we can't make it. So that's why some of the times were constantly changing, was because when the damage assessments would come in, it would cause us to change the ERTs accordingly. For instance, one person on a street called in the outage and no one else did. And when we send someone there, we may discover that there are 5 or 6 poles down, we were really expecting maybe 1 hour. So that's why there's a difference in the number that may be shown on our view outage as opposed to the numbers that have been keyed into our software system.
And I have one other question. I heard Robbie say, which is correct, that the storm was probably twice as bad than anticipated. We get that from the Weather Service, of course. Did Entergy stage ahead of time, or how did this work out for you guys?
Yes, every storm has its own DNA. Every storm sends Entergy back to the drawing table and revisit the way we restore power. Yes, it was somewhat, but we were expecting it to hit in our service territory, regardless if it was Tangipahoa Parish, Livingston, or West Baton Rouge Parish. We were expecting it to hit. We didn't know where we were going to be sending our resources to, but we knew that it was going to hit somewhere. But no, there's a big difference in the punch between 30 and 40 mile per hour winds and 50 to 60 miles per hour winds with gusts up to 75 miles per hour. And when we do the assessments, that's what determines our ERT.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you
And
very much.
sometimes when we restore power and we change the images and the numbers that are on the view outage, then some other tree may fall, as did in Hammond when I communicated with you last night on Old Covington Highway. We had restored a certain amount of customers, and we sent out the status report at that time. However, when everyone was going home, then another tree falls on Old Covington Highway and takes out an entire feeder. So, and vegetation is our biggest enemy on.
I have seen a lot of crews lately, trimming trees. Is that going to continue that process?
Yes, they do. And we do have specs that we must follow. We can only trim 10 feet in some municipalities. Some municipalities it's less, especially if they have ordinances. There are some ordinances that protect live oak trees that we cannot trim. So we have to deal with it on a per situation basis that determines how far or if we are to totally take a tree down.
And just one comment, I think, and I'm correct, but I want to get it out here on the TV, that we have these power outages, and then, we get the power back, and some isolated folks that don't have power that really ought to check or call Energy Correct to be sure that somehow or another they didn't get missed, or there's something else going on here that they're not aware of. And they can just call in the energy number, and I think when your telephone number, it'll tell you, correct?
That is correct, because that determines where we dispatch our restoration resources to. If, for instance, on the east side, if only a couple of customers have phoned in their outages, then we're not going to dispatch someone over there. We will dispatch our resources to the areas that have reported the most outages. And we've been informed that our website wasn't correct. It was showing that they had service where they actually did not. Well, if no one called and reported an outage there, then we are not aware that you experienced an outage.
Because I got a call last night at the house, this lady was saying there's power all around me. I said, well, you just need to call back in to be
Definitely.
assured that they got you.
Definitely call back in, because it's documented, and then we will know that there's an isolated case there whereby we need to revisit that service location.
Yeah, I just want people to understand, they need to update their basic.
Yes, it is very, very important that everyone calls in their outage.
Okay.
Do not depend on your neighbor to call in for you, because your transformer, your meter may be tied to another transformer, and that's how the meters are linked up, transformers. So please encourage your constituents to call their outages.
Thank you.
And if you see some trucks parked somewhere, and it may appear as though no one's doing anything, they're just sitting idle. They are waiting to get their commands from the Distribution Operations Center in Baton Rouge, because safety is number one, and they need to know that that line has been safely and properly and completely de-energized before they attempt to work on it. And you may say that I have not seen any trucks in my neighborhood. The trucks may be a mile away working on a feeder that feeds your home. Therefore, they are working on your outage, but then they're handling a matter that's farther away that needs to be addressed before it feeds up to your home.
All right, Mr. Mayhew?
First, I want to thank you for all the energy getting out and getting everybody's electric turned back on. Unfortunately, I was one of those people that just got it today at around 1 o'clock. And it was kind of frustrating because I was calling in, and I spoke to you once or twice. even some of the family that lived on my road, they called in on Sunday and they were told that they never got a report. And I know I reported it. I reported it 3 different times prior to that. And the other neighbors, you know, I told them, you know, because you've said this repeatedly before, make sure and call in. But what can y'all do that would better prepare you for what happened this weekend? Because I mean, I know it caught everybody by surprise, but it was a tropical storm. Is there anything y'all can do to prepare in a better way to be ready to go right out whenever these storms go through?
We were ready, we were prepared. Like as I said, every storm has its own set of unique circumstances. And if we do not know what damages have been done until we have dispatched our damage assessments to those areas. And the first day after a storm is basically damage assessments, because we don't know how many poles are down. We don't know what's out there. So it's basically storm assessment, damage assessments. That information is keyed into the system, and that determines where we send our restoration efforts to.
Well, with the new meters now, is that going to help y'all define areas that are?
Yes, it will.
Because the
Yes,
people
it
need to know that, because a lot of them don't want to put the new meters in. They don't want to, you know, they think that their bill's going to be doubled and all that. But they need to know that it is going to help benefit y'all coming out to get it done.
That is true. However, you know, that part is true. But that still does not prevent all of the trees from falling onto our poles and our infrastructure.
Well, that was my situation.
Through the damage. But it is better defined, it will be better defined once the advanced meters are installed.
And I want to thank you again for everything you did to get everybody back in store.
My pleasure. It's Entergy's desire that no customer is out without power. However, Mother Nature dictates differently to us, and we try and get as many resources in as possible, dispatch them into the areas most impacted, so we can restore the power as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Ms.
All right.
And in a safe manner.
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next is item number 7. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 19-45. An ordinance providing for the incurring of debt and issuance of not to exceed $7 million aggregate principal amount of the parish of Tangipahoa, State of Louisiana revenue refunding bonds. Prescribing the form, the terms, and the condition of the bonds and the security thereof. Designating the date, denomination, and place of payment for such bonds. Providing for the payment for such bonds in principal and interest, and approving and confirming the sale of such bonds, and providing for other matters with respect to the bonds.
Also moved. Ain't nobody jumping out at that, no, they?
No, they're not. I have a motion by Councilman Rizzo.
I'll second it. Just really just to let the process move forward. We hadn't made any final decisions
Right.
on exactly what we're going to do with this.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Rizzo, as said, and a second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes. All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 8. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1946. That's an ordinance amending Tangipahoa Parish number 1882 for various development regulation, which were in your packet and all spelled out.
Also move.
A motion by Councilman Vial,
Second.
second by Councilman Bruno. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Ms. Cortez.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yep.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 9. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1947. That's an ordinance placing 20 miles per hour speed limit and drive like your kids live here signs on General Ott Road in the district and the parish.
So moved.
That motion by Councilman Cortez,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Villa. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayu? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 10. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1948. That's an ordinance placing no passing signs on Happy Wood Road in District number 10, in District number 10 in the parish.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Cortez,
Second.
second by Councilman Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
All right, the motion is carried. Next is item number 11. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1949. That's an ordinance to place no parking signs on shoulder signs on the Ken Drive in District number 6 in the parish.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Mayhew.
I'll second.
Councilman Vial? Second by Councilman Vial. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
That motion is carried. Next is item number 12. Introduction of Tangipahoa Parish Order number 1950. That's an ordinance to grant a variance to ordinance number 1913, mobile home placement standards for Linda Jennings, Tangipahoa Parish Assessment number 4448502.
That's my district, and this is a replacement of a mobile home. It's not adding one on the property. It's a replacement of one that was there prior. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Mayhew. I have a second by Councilman Ridgel. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
That motion is carried. We have an item that we need to have. We're going to ask our secretary to read that one, please.
This is Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance Number 1951, amending Tangipahoa Parish Ordinance Number 0520 and 0252, amending Section 60901 of the Tangipahoa Parish Council President Government Personnel Policies regarding retirement benefits.
I have a motion to bring that up on unanimous.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Joseph,
Second.
a second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried to bring it up. Need a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilman Joseph,
Second.
a second by Councilman Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Abstain.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes. The motion is carried. Next is item number 13. Approval of the 2020 Tangipahoa Parish Council meeting schedule was in your packet.
Also move.
I have a motion by Councilman Vial,
Second.
second by Councilman Joseph. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Our motion is carried. Next is item number 14. Approval of the 2020 Tangipahoa Parish governmental holidays schedule, which was also in your pack.
Is this the same as last year?
Nothing changed? What I'm hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Bruno.
Second.
Well, double second. All right. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, that motion is carried. Next is item number 15. Appoint to reappoint to the Tangipahoa Parish Volunteer Council on Aging.
We have two reappointments and one appointment. Miss Robin DeGrow and Elsa Blessy can both be reappointed, and there's an appointment form in there for Mr. Anthony Marcani to fill Mr. Carl Wells's expired term.
Well, one of those is mine, so I'll so move. I guess we can do them all.
We can do them all together if you wish. If that's the wish of the council. Anybody object to that?
Good.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilman Ridgel,
Second.
a second by Councilman Mayhew. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno? Mr. Ridgel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That motion is carried. Next is item number 16, little program update. Ms. Ginger,
I'm gonna pull that till later.
you're going to pull it?
Yes.
With a motion to table
Yes.
by Councilman Mayhew,
Second.
a second by Councilman Forrest. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Ridgestall? Mr. Mayhew? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
All right, the motion is carried. Beer, wine, and liquor permits?
None.
None. Legal matters?
I have nothing to bring forward.
None. Councilman privileges? Oh, Councilman Mayhew?
Yeah,
Better put it up, you put it out, I almost
Yeah,
passed by.
Two things. First, I want to commend Charles at 7 o'clock Saturday morning. It was daylight. I go down the road and I run into him and the crew working their butts off on the road, getting everybody situated, getting them ready for Energy to come try to get them their electric. So I want to thank them and commend them. And also on a second note, I want to commend Nate with code enforcement. We've been having an ongoing problem by I-55 and North Hammond exit with the trailer there, just loaded with garbage, and it's been there for too long, a year, too long.
Yeah.
And got with Nate, he got right on it. Within 5 days, all the garbage was moved. Then they left the trailer. Well, I called back, and they came back and got the trailer with no axles and drug it off. And we told them they could leave it there a day or so, but it don't need to be there anymore. We're supposed to be complimented about Tangy Little,
Clean,
and Tangy
yeah.
Beautiful, and Hammond and everything. And the first exit you're getting off of ain't too beautiful when you look and you see a trailer with 450 bags with tires and everything. So I want to commend code enforcement and Nate for getting right on that and getting it out of there.
Committee appreciate your efforts.
Sir.
Any other privileges? If not, I'll entertain the motion.
We do have a fire board meeting.
Adjourn, move me adjourn.
All right, have a motion, a second, or anybody object? Motion carried, meeting adjourned.